Hey guys, welcome to a brand new MinotaurZombie review/thoughts. This time on a very interesting game, Parasite Eve. A game made by Squaresoft back in the PlayStation era, which tried to kind of combine RPG elements with survival horror, and you can definitely see the very much Resident Evil inspiredness to this game. Quick overview of the story, completely spoiler free, I'll only talk about the intro really. The game starts, our main character, Aya Bree, who is an officer of the NYPD. She goes to an opera on a date, and quickly she realizes as the singer starts singing, everyone catches fire in the audience, and it's mass panic. It's now her job to figure out what the hell is going on, who is this singer who is basically setting people on fire, and why is she transforming, and why does Aya have these special new powers. It's up to her and a crazy cast of supporting characters, her partner Daniel, and a crazy researcher from Japan to figure out the mass chaos and stop whatever is happening to everyone. The story is actually easily the highlight of this game, and I think it's what kept me playing through to the end for sure. It's much better than your average story, and you will come to, for the most part, care about the characters. And barring a few moments where the characters do really stupid things, not the main characters, but mostly one character that makes no sense, you'll come to like the characters, and for the most part, it's an enjoyable ride. They actually talk a lot about like actual scientific stuff worthy of like a 9th grade biology class as you play through this game, which is nice. The developers did their research and actually gave some reasoning behind all their explanations of the crazy stuff that's going on. So I always enjoy that, and that's pretty cool. Going on to the gameplay, and this is where things get pretty weird. The gameplay goes like this. I'm gonna think of it like two modes. There's standard Resident Evil mode, where you're kind of running around. You got to find the key to go into this room, and they try and emit a creepy atmosphere with the monsters and try and scare you. I feel like the horror aspect of this game falls short, but mostly because of the RPG reasons I'm going to be getting into soon. For the most part, it works alright though, and in some cases they do things far better than Resident Evil. For example, Resident Evil has a very limited inventory system, where Parasite Eve has a decently sized inventory system, but in Resident Evil, when you try and pick up an object off the ground, it's like, oh, you want that ammo? Oh, your stuff's full. Well, Parasite Eve, you open up the box and you find some goodies, and they give you the option right away to, if your inventory's full, hey, do you just want to swap the item that's in there with something you currently have? And then you pick it up and it's like, oh, it's a damage +1 modifier for your gun. Slap it in your gun and then you can pick whatever you traded into the box back up. Just saving time. It saves a lot of time from that Resident Evil shit. Now I have to run back to the item box, put something in there, come back, put it back in the item box. And things like that, done a lot better than Resident Evil. In fact, it's no tank controls in this game either. By that I mean you don't have to hold left or right to shimmy your orientation to where you want to run, which is very nice. The things that they do much worse than Resident Evil, by far, it's like pixel hunting for a lot of this stuff. There's one area that I was running around for maybe 45 minutes just trying to find a key or figure out where to go. Finally, on like the 4th time coming through this room, I realized, oh, if I'm in just the right spot and facing just the right direction, I can push this desk out of the way. And then if I'm in just the right spot, I can open up this cabinet and there's a key in there. See, the problem is you usually can't just slant yourself along the wall like you would in Resident Evil, mashing the X button until you find something to examine. This game, you have to like be lined up perfectly. If you're running, a lot of times it won't work. You just have to be very precise, and it can really make kind of a big mess of the searching. That's kind of my big complaint there. For the most part, you know, running around doing everything, that's fine. It's not too bad. When you get into combat, we'll get into the RPG section here. So, if you've played Crisis Core, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, but in each room there's usually like a hotspot, air quotes, like a designated area where if you enter this area, there's a chance you're going to go into a battle. And if you go into a battle, enemies just kind of materialize. From there, you enter kind of a battle arena. Once you enter that, it plays more like a standard RPG, albeit with action elements. Basically, you have an ATB gauge that fills up at the bottom, and once it reaches full, you can do a few actions. You can use an item, change weapon, whatever. Use Parasite energy, which is like your magic. The Parasite energies don't get exciting till the end of the game. Your Parasite energies are almost always support-based, except barring two. There's only two that actually attack the enemy. One isn't that spectacular, and the other one you get towards the end of the game. You get these by leveling up. One you get at the end of the game, it just wrecks everything. Like, you'll barely use anything else, but the majority of the game you're going to be shooting things with your gun. So when the ATB gauge fills up, you can shoot your gun, and basically a big bubble wireframe radius is going to show up. What this basically means is if an enemy's in the radius, you can shoot them, and it will do, full damage, and there's a chance to crit, blah blah blah. Also, every gun has a rate of fire, so that's how many rounds Aya is going to squeeze off in that action. The problem here is, basically if an enemy is out of range, then there's a chance to miss, a pretty good chance to miss, and even if it hits, in my mind it may as well have missed, because they make the bullet do like 2 or 3 damage. I would have really liked to see some kind of scaling, where if they're just outside of your range, keep the chance to miss, but make the damage drop off over range, as opposed to just making it do like 2 or 3, because as it stands, it's like, the bullet does like 25 damage here, but if the enemy is 1 inch out of that radius, all of a sudden the bullet will do like 2. It's like the bullets just disappear practically, and that can be frustrating, especially since when Aya starts shooting, you can no longer move her, and she's going to stand in that position until she fires off every single round she can, damn it, which can lead to some awkward situations where 3 enemies are surrounding and you're getting mauled, and you keep getting stun locked, but Aya, she's not going to fucking move, because she spent all this time in this ATB bar, and she's going to squeeze off every fucking round she can. So that can be frustrating, but that part isn't that much of a deal breaker. When you're not shooting, you can move around freely, and you're going to be dodging attacks and all that, and it can be kind of fun learning enemy patterns. And then once you defeat enemies, you'll get experience, and you'll level up kind of like a normal RPG. The level ups, I never felt like I was getting that much stronger from the level ups. To me, it's like max HP going up was the most important thing. So the combat, it's alright at first, but towards the end of the game, and in like the final 2 areas, there's just so many encounters, and luckily it does seem like every time you go into a enemy hotspot, and if you have to come back to that room later, the chance is decreased for every battle that you've been in for another battle to show up, which is very nice. It wore on me a little bit towards the end. The battling is fun, but it just gets a little too often towards the end for this kind of game, I feel. Luckily, you level up pretty fast, and there isn't a ton of encounters, and the boss battles are easily the highlight of the combat. The boss battles are generally quite fun. As for inventory management, it's pretty nice. In this alternate reality, every gun uses like the same ammo type. Yes, even grenade launchers. Rocket launchers are the only thing that use anything else. And the customization, I definitely got to touch on this, because it's probably one of the best highlights of this game on the RPG side. The customization is pretty damn cool. Basically, each gun, throughout the game you'll collect items called tools, and also a wide variety of guns. And there's like 4 or 5 different gun types, by the way. There's handgun, rifle, shotgun, and submachine gun. Basically, the main difference is that they all shoot. Like, rifle takes a long time, like I will stand there and post up a lot, but they generally do bigger damage. But you'll collect a lot of guns throughout the game, and with these tools, you can basically take one of the effects of a gun and put it onto another one at the cost of dismantling that gun in the tool. So for example, what I had towards the end of the game, I was using a submachine gun, and I had picked up a shotgun. So the shotgun had the added effect of like a blast radius. So what I did was dismantle the shotgun, and basically gave my submachine gun the ability to shoot shotgun shells, which is pretty damn cool. And that's easily like kind of making a super gun throughout the game. is very, very fun, very interesting. So that aspect is that aspect was really cool, and I kind of hope that that they kind of continue that in the second game, because I am planning on playing the second game in the series. My biggest problem with the gameplay and combat as a whole is that due to how it works with these monster arenas, I really do feel like it detracts from the horror when enemies just materialize, and it ceases to be exciting when a monster shows up. And I feel like that really detracts from the survival horror aspect that I think they were trying to go for here, because the game definitely tries to evoke a creepy atmosphere a lot of times, which it does hit at certain points, but it's kind of dragged down by this bit. Overall, the gameplay, it was alright. It dragged on. The graphics themselves, pretty basic. You kind of have some of that FF7, not like Lego people, but kind of looks like their faces are painted on, you know what I mean? The one thing that I liked about the graphics is I felt like the animations were done very well. You can definitely see this in the opera scene at the beginning of the game. Another interesting thing they did was with the camera angles compared to Resident Evil. With Resident Evil, it's a fixed camera angle that kind of shifts the position of the camera angle as you move throughout the room. Parasite Eve just decides to have one fixed picture, or like one fixed camera in the room, and from there, that's pretty much the whole room. I mean, the room kind of shifts up and down, or moves kind of to where you're at. It's nice in the sense that it gives you a good overview of the area, but it also takes away, I guess, some of the somewhat called cheap horror of Resident Evil, where you can't quite see what's around the corner necessarily because the camera angle is not in a very great spot, because it's done to, you know, oh, there's an enemy over there, but you can't see it yet, and it's designed to spook you. It comes with some benefits to not do that. I mean, Resident Evil has that stutter every time you kind of shift camera angles like that. Parasite Eve doesn't have to do that. It's just kind of an interesting thing to note. But for the most part, the settings and the graphics, they all hit their mark, I think, for the most part. It's not a game that's gonna, you know, scar you for life with the graphics. The sound was average. There were some standout tracks, and then there were some tracks that I feel kind of failed to convey what they were going for, mainly, once again, with the creepiness, but that's also part of a problem with the gameplay. The music was alright. Wasn't spectacular, barring a few, but nothing awful. Overall, is this a game worth playing? And I've been thinking about this a lot since I finished it, because I think it's gonna turn off RPG players with some of these survival horror elements. Find the key, ammo. You don't have to really conserve ammo. I did towards the end of the game. I ran out of ammo because I was an idiot. But for the most part, I don't think you really have to conserve ammo that much. But I think RPG players are going to be turned off by some of these survival horror elements. And on the same side, I think survival horror players are going to be kind of turned off by the RPG elements, because it kind of ruins the atmosphere. So, but the thing is, despite all this game's flaws and everything, you know, that the combat was a little basic and all that, despite all of that, I enjoyed it through to the end. And I'm still not exactly sure what it was. If it was the gun customization that was pretty fun, or if it was the story. I'm thinking it was probably the story. I still had a really good time with it, and I feel like it's a game that people should give a chance. If you know someone that has the game, try and borrow it from them and just play for an hour or so, and you'll see if you'll like it or not. That'll be enough to really give you a feel. The game only clocked in at about 9 hours for me. The nice thing is that they add some replay value at the end of the game as well. When you beat the game, you get basically a save file that you can make, and from there you can do what they call an EX mode, which is kind of a New Game Plus kind of thing. You get to carry over like one weapon and armor from your previous playthrough. The game will be harder, and then there's basically a new bonus dungeon that has randomized floor layouts with the true final boss at the end. For the most part, I think it's a pretty nice touch. I think it's done a lot better than other New Game Pluses that just kind of give you all your superpowered equipment, and they're like, okay, play through the game again, just stomping everything. So there's always that too. I can't really say it's a must play. It's basic. its most notable feature is that it's very unique and it tries something different. And you know what? Maybe that's why I enjoyed it. It's because it kind of broke the mold. It said, "Hey, Resident Evil is really big right now. I want to do something like that, but I don't want to be another one of the numerous Resident Evil clones out there. Let's try and mix it up a bit." For that, it was a pretty admirable attempt, and it certainly isn't a bad game by any means. If you're looking for something unique, you might as well give it a try, honestly. As always, I'm gonna play Parasite Eve 2 here pretty quick. I'm excited to play it because this game got me interested in the series, and I'm really curious to see what they do with the game. I think they could definitely. I think if they ironed out some of the flaws I talked about and kind of improve on that, I think it could be a spectacular game. I'm looking forward to playing it and seeing what they do with it. So I might do a review on that one too in the future. We'll see. Until next time, guys. Thanks for watching.